Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. If you're new to the channel, this channel talks about the hows and whys of fishing. We cover everything from big game, ultralight, everything in the middle, including fly fishing. And we've been having a discussion about tie rubber fishing. Okay. Um, it's a series of videos. It's actually on a playlist. And if you're new here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button because YouTube has a nasty habit of making very useful channels disappear. You know, they show it once and then they disappear. People kind of tend to forget. So if you don't want to miss the discussion, and you know what? After this video, you can actually browse around the channel and you'd see there's a lot of educational content, educational fishing content. Not just for tie rubber, we talk extensively about slow jigging, fast jigging, shore, slow, and all that. So yeah, click on that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Now on to the discussion, reels. Okay, let me show you a bunch of reels that I have used for tie rubber fishing. Okay, so there's 5. Actually, there's 6, right? So, or 7. I have this and I have another one, okay, which is a 3000 size. This one I use for like my bigger reel right here. And then for the smaller spinning reel, for my, I showed it in the rod video. It's for this one right here. Actually use a 2500 or a 3000. Okay, so altogether, there's quite a few reels. Now there's a reason for this. Okay, there's a very good reason for this, and the reason is speed. Now, take for example, this is an HG. Okay, so this reels in a bit faster. Okay, and then I have a PG. This is another HG. And then this is a PG. Okay, different speeds. And then this is a PG, but the difference is it has a bigger spool. So this is actually equivalent to a, let's say, if an OSHA Jigger 1500 is, what do you call this, is compared to this spool is slightly bigger, okay? Because the equivalent of the 1500 would be about a, let's say a 3000 sized or 30 sized SOM. Okay, this is a 35. Now, believe it or not, this gives me a very different retrieve ratio that's different from this one and from the HGs. And I have an HG version which is literally faster than any of those. Now, you'd be asking like, what? Do I need 7? Well, no. But then when you're getting into this and you're getting very specific, okay, you will notice a very big difference between one reel and another and how the fish is responding to those reels. Okay, granted, you get all nerdy, okay, when it comes to these things. Now, spinning reels are actually faster than conventional reels, and it gives you a different presentation style, which is why spinning reels are something that's kind of like an emerging thing when it comes to tie rubber fishing, tenya, and inchiku fishing in Japan. So in Japan, people are slowly going into the use of spinning reels for certain situations. Okay, for certain situations. Now, how would you pick a reel? Okay, well, it depends on a few things. Okay, now, I use inchiku as the Japanese do, which is literally for shallow water fishing. I know that the rest of the world, there are some inchikus that are actually, I have a 200-gram one somewhere. I forget where it is, but I have a 200-gram inchiku. Sea Falcon makes like even heavier versions for inchiku, but tie rubber, okay, I have one that is about 150, 200, and you can fish that deeper, obviously, or in places where there's a lot of current. Now, for my tie rubber, I don't go over PE 1.5. This is how I was taught. Okay. And um, it's a finesse technique. It is a finesse technique, and this is what they use for. Remember, this is used for almost exclusively for Thai. Okay, now Madai, the pink or the red Japanese snapper. Okay, now this particular fish is actually kind of finicky. All right, very finicky. So they use light tackle techniques to catch the fish. This is why for Japan, this type of fishing maxes out at PE 1.5. And correspondingly, the reels are actually on the smaller bit. Now, a lot of the sales for this particular reel, believe it or not, is for Thai rubber fishing. And there's quite a few reels that are actually very for specialized for Thai rubber fishing. The This is an OSHA Conquest, okay, and there is a version with a line counter, and that's the CT model. Okay, so the CT models are built for Thai rubber fishing, and it has a digital readout of the depth that you're fishing, because some people are very, very particular about those things. Now, I'm not too particular about this sort of fishing. Um, I know my depth approximation because of the line that I am dropping down, but also the fact that when I fish, there's a fish finder and I can just look at the depth. Okay, so I don't need to be very specific about um, how deep it is. This reel gives me a very good ballpark. So that's that, or at least this line. And we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about the line and the leader in the next video, actually. So for this particular instance, I take at least 3 reels when I go. Okay. Um, I usually use Thai rubber to target a specific fish, and that is the spangled emperor. There's a lot of bycatch when you're fishing this. You'll catch grouper and stuff like that, but most of the time we actually, or I personally, when we go out fishing, especially when we're like bottom fishing and whatnot, around here when you're bottom fishing, um, almost exclusively you're targeting 2 fish. That would be sherry, which is what they call the spangled emperor, A, and B, hamur or grouper. Okay, so those are the 2 targets, and we're fishing in shallow water, maybe about 30 meters, 35 meters, 40 at the very most. So in shallower areas, I use a slow speed reel. It's that straightforward. Use a what do you call this? A slower reel, PG. The problem is sometimes in deeper areas or even in shallow water, sometimes let's say 27 meters and we're fishing, I notice, and you'll notice this immediately. Okay, here's the thing. When we're bottom fishing, you'll see, or when I'm Thai rubber fishing, more than likely I'm with a group of guys that are bottom fishing. What happens is that they're catching. Okay, I'm not saying that Thai rubber will catch more fish, but it has the potential to actually get a lot of strikes. Okay, so when you're dropping and you're reeling, okay, you have to adjust the speed. Okay, first you go fast and then you go slow. The problem with a fast reel is that even if you're reeling in slowly, it doesn't translate to the jig moving properly. This is what I've discovered, and this is what I've discovered the hard way. So what happens is that when I'm reeling, uh, they respond. Great. So they respond to a medium speed retrieve, just like that. Because in Thai rubber fishing, all you do is reel. You drop it down, okay? You drop it down. As soon as it reaches the bottom, boom, immediately reel. The most basic, and believe it or not, 90% of the catch is just doing that. Drop it down, boom, reel. As soon as you hit the bottom, it's very critical. Boom, reel, start reeling, start reeling. Okay? And then bang, you get hit. Now, if the fish are responding to something that's faster on the retrieve, then great. You've chosen the right reel. The problem is, it's not always the case. Now, if you start out with a PG, and again, you're reeling as per normal, that's normal speed, let's say, okay, and they respond, great. The problem with the slow jigging slow reel is that even if you reel fast, guess what? It's not gonna go up as fast as you think. Remember, if you are fishing, especially with water that has like a decent depth, let's say 40 meters, your spool is also going, that's minus 40 meters. Now, if you're using thin line, like take for example, there are some people in Japan that use 0.6 and even 0.4 with reels this size. Okay, you won't really get a lot of the line going out of your reel as far as the depth of your spool is concerned, because it's thin. But when you're using something thicker, okay, now the main difference between this reel and this reel is the line. Okay, so they basically have the same speed, but this has thicker line than this. And guess what? The reel becomes shallower or deeper, sorry. So when I drop the line, this gets more affected than this, because this has point, uh, 0.8. This has 1.5. Sorry. Yeah, I think 1.5. Okay. So imagine that. I have 1.5 on this and I have 0.8 on this, and there's a difference when you reel. If you don't feel it, trust me, the fish do. Okay? And when you jump into this rabbit hole, it matters, because for those people that are not so serious about this, it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. But I found that for me, like 0.8 is actually a very happy medium. Okay, so for at least for the fishing that we're doing here, um, it's okay. Now when I go deeper, it becomes a problem because these reels don't pick up as much line as I want to. This is the reason why I have these bigger ones. And guess what? It matters, because even if I was fishing with a guy beside me doing the exact same thing, this is a PG and it's a bigger spool, so it picks up a bit more line than the HG. Okay? Closer to 100 meters, I use an even a faster reel. You don't have to go that extreme, It's just that for some people, it's not so important. For some people, it's a job. Now, for me, well, I was like trying to sell these things when I was working for that other company. And guess what? No time for fun and games. Even if I had to literally, what do you call this? Even if I had to literally spend for gear that I didn't have, I had to, because guess what? I had to sell. I had a reason. I had a very good reason. For some people, fun and games, okay, doesn't matter. But I had to learn. I had to learn fast, and I had to juggle with things so that I ensure that I had everything to make this thing work, and it did. Okay, and guess what? When it comes to reels and reel selection, when it comes to this thing, okay, you have to have at least two. You have to have at least two options, because when you're using a PG, you can't reel fast enough sometimes. Okay, there are different types of these heads. Okay, there are those that swim and make the tail move, and those that have a different shape head, like take for example the smoother heads. Okay, a bit more what do you call this, rounded or whatever, and then you look at the tail. Okay, you look at the tail, and you'll find that the design for some is actually to have a static head, but as soon as they hit the water, we're diving down to the next video. This is going to be explained more in the next video, which is about lures. So as it moves through the water, what happens is that it disrupts the liquid. It creates turbulence, okay? And once it creates the turbulence, what happens? These tails move. Okay, the necktie, this is what you call it. The necktie moves. And when the necktie moves, that's literally what the fish actually get attracted to. So the thing is, and I used to not believe this. Believe it or not, I used to not believe this. Now, if I was selling reels, don't believe me. Okay? If I was selling reels. But I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. So imagine you're reeling this, okay? And even if you're really reeling faster, okay? The cadence or the retrieve ratio that you're actually getting, and the line, it's not the retrieve ratio, it's the retrieval, okay, is very different when you're reeling in faster. Is very different from what you get when you're reeling this, okay? This is an HG, so just steady retrieve like that, okay? And the funny thing is, for this one, when you slow down, okay, you retrieve, it's also not the same as when you're reeling with this. It's crazy. It's really crazy. You know what? And like I said, if try this out, okay, and if you feel that it's working for you, great. Okay. And by the way, that's the same way to fish this. Just cast it out and reel it in. Okay. Whereas that works with the tail. Okay. This acts more like a spoon in Chico. Okay. And the thing with in Chico is that you could use any sort of gear. Okay. You could use spinning, you could use overhead, you can use HG, PG, but it remains the same because speed is very important when it comes to this. That's why you have to have at least two options, and then you can see exactly which one works for you, especially if you're fishing in a fixed depth. But again, you know, this acts more like a spoon. So it moves like that, okay? And the tail moves with it. So this body imparts the action on the tail or the squid skirt. And whereas this, there's two types. There's ones like these that actually swim. So this swims with an S motion. And there are others that actually just go steady, and then the tails. You know, it becomes critical which one is which, because what I've discovered is that I cannot swim this in slower speeds and make it move with an HG. I use a PG, okay, and reel, you know, with a like that. And guess what? If I use the HG and I reel with the same speed, it wouldn't move because you need to hit the sweet spot so that it swims like that instead of like that. And the HG kind of makes it swim in a tight S motion. So a PG works better. Now, for the others, an HG makes the other shape. The HG gives it a different effect. You know, so when you're reeling faster, what happens is that you're increasing the vibration, so it's moving subtly. Some fish respond to that. Okay? Whereas some fish respond to a slower retrieve, which gives a more fluttering action on the tail or a more movement like that. Because when you're reeling in, what happens is that the water hitting the head and creating the turbulence at the back becomes faster. It becomes more chaotic. And what happens is that it's like a flag. Okay? So with a soft, gentle breeze, you'll find the flag waving like that. And then with a faster, faster wind, it goes like that. So it's the same thing with the reels. This is why you have to have at least two reels when you really get into this. Because guess what? At the end of the day, it's not you who's going to decide to bite that. It's the fish. Okay? It's the fish, and it's their decision to actually bite it or not. If they respond to a fast reel, great, good for you. There's your choice. But if they respond to a slower reel and all you have is a fast reel, the solution is very simple. Get one of these, okay? Put bait, go bottom fishing. Because they're not gonna bite your tie rubber. Or what you can do is actually put bait on your tie rubber, because some people do it, and go bottom fishing with that. Otherwise, for that particular day, guess what? It's probably the reel. And a lot of people, I've fished with a lot of people, okay, that gave up using the tie rubber because either the reel was too fast or it was too slow for that particular instance of the tide movement. For that particular instance of the tide movement. Okay, remember that. Because the fish will respond differently according to how the tide moves. And that is how you get clued in on either using the faster reel or the slower reel. Again, it's not you, it's how the fish respond to it. And once the fish respond, that's it. Now, spinning reels. They have a very special place. And by the way, when you're fishing this, it's good to actually have a little bit of a diagonal angle on the line. Fishing this straight up and down, I found that it's not too, I would say I haven't really, I've caught more when the drift actually is a bit faster and when, the line is a bit more, what do you call this? And that's also how you judge the head. Okay, so you don't take a heavy head so that you're able to fish up and down. Remember, this is shallower water fishing. Okay, so and most of the time when we're at like 30 meters or something, a slight angle on the line. This is the boat. We're drifting this way, and your line's a bit like that, and that's that's all in good. That's where I get a lot of my bites now. Excuse me. Spinning reels. I use them when I've used spinning reels. So let me rephrase that. I've used spinning reels a lot on not tie rubber, but these. Okay. The faster speed of the spinning reel makes it easier to work. Okay. And I use either an HG or an XG. And they make these things move really well. Now, people, we will have more of a discussion when it comes to these things right here. Okay, but any sort of gear you can use on with this, even hand lines, and they work really well. But for spinning, they work exceptionally well, and I've had really good success using Inchiku on spinning reels. Now, there are certain instances where I would use a spinning reel for my and mostly HG. Okay, so remember this is even faster than those. So this is a 4,000, which makes it kind of like an equivalent to a 2,000. So even faster with this. Okay, when the fishing's kind of difficult and I have to actually look for the what do you call this for the right speed, then spinning becomes part of the mix when I need something that's a bit faster. Okay. This I use a lot with this rod right here. It's kind of like an all-purpose rod, and it has a very a softish tip. So I use this with the spinning. Now, I use lighter when it becomes kind of difficult, and then I need to use my Ika metal, which if you haven't checked in the last video, I actually discussed this. It has a very soft tip. Okay, it's made for squid fishing, but it has a very soft tip and a very sensitive tip. Okay, I use this with a 2500 or a 3000 reel, and again I have two reels to choose from. either a 3,000 or a uh, 2,500. Now the 2,500 is a slow reel. Okay, it's a slow reel, whereas the 3,000 is actually a bit faster. I have HGs and XGs in the 3,000, so I could just choose whichever. But if I'm taking this one, I am mostly using this with the 2,500. Okay, and then the 3,000 becomes kind of like a backup if I need something faster. This I use a lot, as I mentioned, because with this I'm actually using smaller. You know, I found the ones that I use with this one. It's actually I'm gonna show this. I'm gonna show it when we talk about these in the next video. But this is a 40-gram one, and I have ones at like 10 grams, I think, or 20 or some 15 or some weight like that, like really light and small. So when the current is dead, okay, when the current is literally dead, um, I use these like really thin line, let's say PE 0.3 or even thinner, 4-pound test, like real 4-pound test braid, which is going to be like 0.1 or something like that, something ridiculously thin. But you drop that down, down deep, real slowly, because this in usually what happens in slack tides. Usually what happens in slack tides, and um, it has happened a few times, and I was so happy that I took it with me. But on slack tides, when there's hardly any current, what we do is look for a little bit of current, okay? And it makes a difference between fishing in places where there's zero current and places with a very small amount of current. There is a huge difference, because guess what? In slack tides, there's hardly any movement in the water, and the fish are shut off. Okay, now the thing is, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be asking, like, well, if you knew that the fish weren't biting, why did you go? For the simple fact that whatever is convenient for the whenever it's convenient for the fish to bite isn't necessarily the best time for you to go, because everyone works, remember. Okay, so if you're, let's say you're working, right, and then it's a Saturday or Sunday, a weekend for you, it's the only time when you get to fish. And now, if you know how things work, okay, and you already have an idea that, oh gosh, this is a really miserable fishing day. But guess what? Are you going to fish or not? Some people don't have a choice, right? So if you're looking at time and place, let's say we're going to Dubai, just a short trip, and it's a slack tide. You look at the moon and you just go like, holy moly, this is not optimal. Spinning reel, rod like that, fish small stuff. And this is a type of fishing that enables you to fish even slower than a slow jig. Fish it gives you a bit of a chance rather than like zero. So which one would you do? So for me, I'd always pick at least that minimum chance, even if it's so small, even if I'm fishing for one strike, because guess what, I'm used to that crap. You know, growing up in the Philippines, it was like that. So for me, it's just okay, it's either I go fishing or I don't. It's as simple as that. Now, that is the reason why I have reels and rods to prepare me for days like that. It doesn't happen often because, you know, scheduling and all that. But when that happens, it's better to have something like this than not. Otherwise, go fish with bait. Alrighty. So that's it with the reels. Okay. If you're serious into getting into this, the reels need to make the fish respond. It's not your decision. It's the fish. Okay. And sometimes, you know, it only takes one fish to make a bad day a better one. So have at least two reels, and it doesn't have to be these reels. right? Now, the deeper you go, the faster your reel should be, for the mere fact that when you're dropping down deeper, your rate of retrieve actually gets slower. Okay? And fish will respond to speed. This is like literally the ethos of this fishing. It's speed. It's find and it's not one correct speed. Okay? Fish will respond to sometimes just the jig dropping. And I've done that. Okay? There's actually a video in I think the old account of it's gone now. And I was using this. Okay? I dropped it down. As soon as it reached bottom, one crack, boom, I was on. It was crazy. There were times when I was just dropping it and the fish took it. Okay? So those are times when the fishing is really good. It doesn't matter what you drop. Okay? And those fish, some of those fish were actually barracuda. So imagine a barracuda responding to something like this. It's weird, but you could literally catch any sort of fish with this. Now I've hooked amberjack. I didn't land them, but I hooked amberjack on tie rubber. I've caught tuna on these as well, which is crazy because we actually didn't know how to use them before. It was just like, oh, let's try this out, and then boom, it caught tuna, dorado, and I've caught amberjack on these, okay, dorado and tuna as well. So this is really flexible. When you're fishing for tuna, that crap right there, you don't use that. You actually put a solid ring. So it's a very variable technique, and the premise is speed. That's it. Okay, the speed is the key, and the reel controls the speed. So at least have two choices. You don't have to go crazy like the one I showed you, because guess what? Like I said, for some guys, it's fun and games. For some, it's a job, right? So at least have two options, a fast reel and a slow reel. And then between those two, you'd be able to find the speed that the fish will respond to at that given time. And that is it for this video. Thanks so much to the members. Firstly, thank you very much for the support. Now, if you want to help the channel, there's a few things. You can like, you can subscribe, and if you want to do more, you can click that join button. It helps me, it helps the channel grow faster. Alrighty, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed. If you've learned something, or even if you find this video interesting, give it a thumbs up. Very important. Alrighty.